Hey guys, it's Sydney, and today we'll be talking about Euphoria. Euphoria is an American drama following a group of teenagers in California that began in 2019 and is currently ongoing. Right. The main character is Rue Bennett, who is played by Zendaya. She is a 16-year-old girl that has anxiety, OCD, ADD, and later is diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Season 1 of Euphoria begins with Rue's signature narration, describing her life before the events of the series. She details her experience as a child with OCD, anxiety, and ADD, and possibly bipolar disorder.
But she's a little young to tell.
Rue is shown stealing her mother's Xanax in the morning, and for the intro, they use Hold Up by Beyonce. This was prime Hold Up era. They had a budget. HBO was not playing. They was like, here you go. St. Louis was like, okay, let's get Beyonce up here. They was not playing. And not only is the original soundtrack beautiful and the score is like amazing, the songs they add to each scene are like great. Like later in the season, they use Cocky AF by Megan Thee Stallion. This was on the come up Meg. This was Tina Snow Meg. I already watched the show and I was surprised when I recognized. I was like, whoa, I forgot they had this in there. But anyways, back to the show. Rue spent most of her summer in rehab, and this is when we meet Rue's younger sister, Gia, who is played by Storm Reed. And I have a hot take. They don't look like sisters. And while on the way home from rehab, Rue sees Jules riding her bike.
I had no intention of staying clean, and Jules had just moved to town.
Jules is a transgender girl who just moved to their town last week. We're introduced to the town's drug dealer, Fezco, who is played by Angus Cloud, may he rest in peace, and Ashtray, who is played by Javon Walton. There is a huge party happening at Christopher McKay's house. He was a hotshot football player who was just recruited to a Division I college, but he is super insecure and is constantly seeking approval from his friends, one of those being Nate Jacobs, who is my arch nemesis. Now, everyone hates Nate Jacobs, but nobody hates Nate Jacobs like I hate Nate Jacobs. It's deep-rooted, and I don't play. I sink my when I get my hands on Nate Jacobs. So McKay is currently dating a girl named Cassie, who is a senior at East Highland High School, and she is played by Sydney Sweeney. Cassie has many leaked nude photos of her, and all the guys on the football team are like showing it to the McKay, like, oh, she's this, she's that, she's this, she's that.
Whether I like her or not is irrelevant. The fact is, she's a too, bro.
Instead of leaving Cassie alone, he sleeps with her that night and chokes her without her permission. And she's like, that's weird, and they have a discussion about it, and he's like understanding, which shows that McKay is not a bad person, but he's a follower with no backbone and does anything that Nate tells him to do. Before the party, Jules hooks up with this older man she met on an online dating app, but she lies and says she's 22. Kat, who is a friend of Jules, loses her virginity to the scum of the earth. The entire scene just makes my skin crawl.
Are you?
Savage. She was on a mission to end her junior year as a woman of questionable morals.
Let me ask you a question. If I were to pull my dick out right now, would you suck it?
Maddie arrives to the party ready to be messy because she and Nate broke up for the umpteenth time. So she grabs a random man named Tyler and starts viciously making out with him in the pool. They didn't have sex, but it sure looks like it. And Nate is mad. Because Nate is mad, he takes out his frustration on Jules and tries to bully her.
Yo, is anybody here friends with Jules? Anyone? Does anybody know who the this is? Now somebody better speak up or this is gonna get fucked up. Oh, yeah.
And then she cuts herself to scare him away, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's so crazy. Because of this, she gets the attention of all East Highland, and especially Rue, who ends up talking to her, and they become fast friends. But the camera follows Nate home, and it reveals that the man that Jules slept with is Nate Jacobs' father. Ooh, that's messy. Ooh, that's messy. Best pilot episode ever, perhaps. Episode 2 centers around Nate Jacobs and his backstory. When Nate was 11 years old, he found his dad's collection of sex tapes with men and transgender women. When he was 12, he started a strict workout routine and started to internalize all his feelings and became very angry and insecure. In present day, Nate is tweaking about Maddie and Tyler. And Maddie decides to lie and says she blacked out when she was with Tyler after denying the fact that they even had sex at all. Nate low-key forced her into saying that he assaulted her. There's something so sick and sinister about this whole ordeal. That man is kind of sick because he's 22 years old, all on a 17-year-old, okay? And why is he 22 years old at a high school party? Like, duh, there are bound to be some high schoolers there. On the first day of school, the teacher was being very messy, and Rue was asked to come on stage and say something memorable about her summer. The whole town knows that Rue overdosed and spent most of her summer in rehab. How do you, as a teacher, not know? Don't make me angry. Like, that just made me so mad the entire time. I was like, this woman should be fired. She should be fired. Kat was secretly filmed with the vermin that she had sex with at the party, and their tape ended up being all on the internet. And after getting the situation dealt with in the most unserious way, she goes home and finds out that the video had been reposted on another platform, and everybody in the comments was like, oh my gosh, I wish she came. I would do anything to be with her. So she's like, I have a bright idea. So she starts the process of becoming a cam girl. Kat is 16 years old, being a cam girl. Cut their mic. Sam Levinson, I don't know what you got going on, but can we cut it out quickly? Jules is texting a guy named Shy Guy 118, and they really hit it off. And he says his name is Tyler, but he really is Nate Jacobs. Why does he have his hand in every little thing? Why are you being messy? McKay is frustrated that he isn't getting any playing time in college, so Cassie tries to put it on him to make him feel better, and he like, why do you always gotta make things so sexual? And I have a think piece of brewing, okay? Cassie has to make everything sexual because that's all guys have ever wanted from her. That's what he came onto her doing, all that extra stuff. And I'm like, what, you wonder why she makes everything so sexual? You made it sexual too. You may really like her, but a lot of guys have really liked her. And they ditched her once she stopped giving them what they wanted from her. So, let's clock that. A sick and twisted man named Mouse is introduced, and he's Fez's supplier and basically forces Rue to take fentanyl and almost takes advantage of her. Episode 3 is Kat's backstory. When Kat was in middle school, she dated a boy named Daniel, and he really appreciated her for who she was. He thought she was pretty, all da. But she went on a family vacation and gained 20 pounds. And when she came back, Daniel broke up with her. So she stopped putting herself out there and began writing fan fiction. And this is where the infamous Harry Styles and Lewis Tomlinson animated scene comes from. Rue goes to Narcotics Anonymous and tells everyone that she's 60 days sober. She's not. And a man named Ali clocks her tea so bad, and he tells her when she's really ready to get clean to call him. Rue also helps Jules take nude photos to send to Tyler. What? Why would you do that? Jules does ask her, but at the same time, who in their right mind is asking their friend to take nudes for them? What? Is that a normal thing? Is that something that happens? I've never had that experience. I've never been asked. I never asked. What? She also takes pills from Jules's house. Maddie goes through Nate's phone and finds a bunch of penises. It's like an abnormal amount. You know, maybe you got one or two. You know, I'm like, okay, maybe you was just exploring. But it was like scrolling, different sizes, different shapes, different colors. Just balls. It was really weird. Rue and Jules get into it after Rue is concerned about how Jules is meeting Tyler after the carnival in a secluded place where nobody can see them. I would be concerned too as a friend. She was really just concerned for her safety, and Jules is like, oh, you don't like Tyler, I'm like, I don't trust Tyler. Tyler's a random man on the internet. He could have done anything to you. Rue feels so terrible about what happened with Jules that she goes back to her house and she apologizes, but then she ends up kissing her. Rue is fighting for her life at this point, so she goes to see Fez, and Fez is like, no, I'm not gonna serve you.
Open the door! Are you doing this because you care about me? If you gave a shit about me, you wouldn't have sold me the f***ing drugs in the first place!
Rue is so messed up and she feels like she has nowhere to turn, that she calls Ali. And Ali really sets her down. He's like, if you serious about this, you need to be serious about this. Coleman Domingo was perfect for this role. I mean, wow, he knocks it out of the park every single time. Episode 4 is Jules' backstory, and oh my goodness. Jules' mother sent her to a psychiatric hospital because she suffered from depression and self-harming. Parents separated swiftly after, and she began transitioning and living with her father. But in present day, it is the day of the carnival. Maddie pulls up to the carnival in a crazy fit, and Nate says she is dressed like a hooker. So Maddie starts tweaking. McKay brings Cassie around the Jacobs family and tells Nate that they are just chilling. Last episode, he told Cassie that he loved her. What? So Maddie and Cassie take Molly. I don't know how they made that jump. I don't know why they decided. They're like, oh, you want to take Molly? Yeah, I want to take Molly. And they got high off their mind. And Cassie grabs this guy that has a crush on her from her school named Daniel. And she makes out with him on the carousel and has an orgasm on the carousel. Sadly, Cassie, you should feel ashamed. Kat is at the carnival with her classmate named Ethan, and he seriously has a crush on her. And Kat kind of likes him back, but this is after her rebrand, so she's trying to be all hard body. She sees Ethan talking to a pretty girl, and she's instantly like, that dog, he is so instead of going up and talking to him and be like, hey, what's going on? And then he'll be like, oh, this is my sister's co-worker. She's just asking me if their sister can pick up a shift. Like, certain things just require communication. Instead of going to talk to Ethan, she decides to hook up with this East Highland legend that's like now like nobody, just working at a carnival. And nothing wrong with carnival workers. It's just that he clearly lives out his glory days of high school by sleeping with a 16-year-old girl at the ripe age of like 25. When Rue gets to the carnival with Gia and Lexi, who is Cassie's younger sister and is supposedly Rue's childhood best friend, she instantly ditches them so she can go be with Jules. Jules finds out that the man she slept with that night is indeed Cal Jacobs, who is Nate Jacobs' father. So we're thrown off. Everybody's messy. She goes up to him being messy to prove that that's the man that she slept with to Rue. Crazy. Leslie calls Rue and she's like, I can't contact Gia. Go get your sister. Find her for me. Like, so Rue starts looking for her and they're tweaking out. Rue finds her smoking marijuana with McKay's brother and like a group of people. And the twins disrespect Rue so much. And she's like, oh yeah, you're a drug addict. How you gonna listen to her? And because she's a drug addict, you should listen to her. She knows the effects of something like this. Are you serious? That's so disrespectful. And then Gia went out to hang out with them again. I was like, oh my God, have you no respect? Self-respect or respect for your family. What? You're gonna sit up here and hang out with a man, not a man, a boy, hang out with a boy that disrespected your sister, disrespected something, a traumatic event. You found your sister overdosed, laid out on the brink of life and death. And you're gonna sit up here and, girl, that's how I know she a middle schooler. Ain't no backbone in this. Maddie's ready to be messy off that Molly. And she goes up to Nate's family's chili booth. And she's like, oh, your mom is a nasty word that I will not repeat. Nate is so enraged that he drags her out. Like, literally grabs her and drags her. There's a big man, 6'5" man, drags her out to the side of a trailer and chokes her and slams her up against the trailer. This is really, like, this whole episode is really hard for me to watch. Cal is scared out of his mind when he sees Jules, and he goes up to her after the carnival like, please do not ruin my life. Please do not tell anybody. And Jules is like, I don't, it's like I wasn't like Jules was not planning on doing that. She just told Rue because like that's her best friend and she was right there. It was like a shock factor thing. Jules goes through her plan to meet Tyler and she finds out that Tyler is Nate Jacobs and he threatens her to have her put away for child pornography if she doesn't keep quiet about his dad. She was gonna do that anyway. You didn't have to be, like, literally, there was no need for Nate to be evil. Like, really, he's just an evil man. Like, there's no need for any of that. Jules goes over to Rue's house, but she doesn't tell her what happened, but they end up kissing, and now they're in, like, a relationship. Episode 5 is focused on Maddie, who doesn't like the idea of working after her mom pulled her out of pageants because there was this sick creep being a pageant coach. And then it shows how she eventually ended up in her relationship with Nate, who was really nice at first, but then he just was like so mean and was so nasty. And then Maddie was mean and nasty too. He was so controlling, and like, Maddie is a stubborn person. Like, even if you saying the right thing, if Maddie don't want to hear it, she don't want to hear it. In present day, Rue tells her mother that she's sort of kind of dating Jules. Maddie tries to hide her neck injuries from the police and her family, but it's swiftly found out, and her mom is pressing charges against Nate. Allie doesn't believe that Rue and Jules' relationship is healthy for Rue, and that really scares her. Cassie reconciles with McKay, who apologizes for his behavior at the carnival, and Kat is really cold towards Ethan without an explanation, and Ethan's like, what did I do wrong? And she just refuses to tell him. Then Kat has sex with a store clerk that she fantasized about previously. Too many older men dealing with these little girls. I forgot to mention this important detail. While Kat is in the process of hooking up with this dude, Maddie calls her in shambles, and she basically ignores Maddie, and she's like, I'm busy right now. Mind you, Maddie is crying like crazily. And, you know, I understand Kat is like, oh, I'm busy, I'm about to get it on. But at the end of the day, this is one of your closest friends. If one of my closest friends calls me crying saying that they need me, oh, I'm there. Even if I can't be there physically, I'm going to be there on the phone. So it's like seeing Kat really do that and mistaking her independence and her taking charge of her life for being selfish is crazy. It's a crazy thing to see. And because of all this heat on Maddie and Nate, they start sneaking around every Friday night. I hate Nate Jacobs. That's all I have to say. I hate him. Episode 6 is McKay's backstory. Growing up, McKay was coached by his father to not only become a star football player, but become a strong man. He taught him how to bottle up his feelings and just to put it all out on the field.
That's his game. That's the world's game. They want to push on you, poke on you, see exactly how much you can take. And how much you can take is what will ultimately define you.
But when he reaches college, he realizes that everybody is good and that his chances of going pro are slim to none. In present day, Nate is suspended from school and is socially ostracized because of what he did to Maddie. Nate then breaks into Tyler's apartment again and coerces him into confessing to assaulting Maddie. He also blackmails Jules into corroborating their story. Cassie attends a Halloween party at McKay's college, and while they are trying to get it on, McKay is violently hazed and sexually assaulted by his fraternity brothers. Because Cassie's like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to just relax? And he's like, no. Why do you have your clothes on? Let's have sex. Oh my gosh. So he is very violent with Cassie. She starts crying. It's really bad. The next night, Daniel hosts the party, and Rue is very worried about Jules because she is drinking heavily. Rue then apologizes to Fez for lashing out at him, and Fez is like, I don't take nothing a drug addict say seriously. You just trying to get some drugs. Like, come on. And Kat has sex with Ethan, but like ditches him when he finishes too quick. Okay, she ditches him. And yeah, she goes and has sex with Daniel. Mind you, this is after Daniel tried to have sex with Cassie, and Cassie was like, no, I don't want to have sex with you. I have a boyfriend. I would feel really bad. And Daniel says the craziest thing. You've probably heard this TikTok sound. He was like, oh, you're so boring. If any guy wants you besides your looks and besides sex, he's lying to you. Whoa! Can we be calm? Because Daniel, you're not the finest pickle in a pickle patch. I don't know why I said pickles. I hate pickles. That's why. Because Daniel is weird. He is sinister and weird. He dressed up. First of all, he dressed up as Ted Bundy. And then Cassie realizes that her period is late. Nate and Maddie arrive together at Daniel's party, and everybody's lit. They're like, come home. Welcome home, Nate. Welcome home, Nate. I'm like, this was just the op. For good reason. What's going on? Like, y'all wanted to forgive him so bad. And that's when Rue was like, something is really suspicious and off about this whole thing. Episode 7 is Cassie's backstory. Cassie was kind of like a daddy's girl, you know, but he was very flirtatious and her mom really did not like that. Cassie's mom cheats on her dad and he leaves her. Natural response. And after that, Cassie's dad got addicted to painkillers and other drugs and stuff like that. So he would come in and out of their lives, you know. He was really unreliable. And every time Cassie's dad came into her life, she tried to cling on to him for dear life. So Cassie enters a lot of sexual relationships with guys where they're like, oh, send nudes, oh, that's recorded, and she don't be wanting to do it, but she does it anyway because she loves these guys. And then she meets McKay and she feels like he's different until he asks for news, until he does all these weird things, but she still loves him apparently. In the present, Rue is falling into depression and she binges a bunch of episodes of Love Island, and then she has like bladder failure. And before the whole bladder failure thing happened, Rue and Lexi were having this like whole detective thing, and I really love that because it's like, it just seems like Rue like kind of hates Lexi and only uses her, but like in this moment they were really bonding, and I really thought the detective Rue was really funny. And Rue asks Fez to like kind of rough up Nate and be like, oh, just flash a gun and be like messy, and so he does it. And Maddie is like beefing with Kat over her assertive new attitude. Cassie tells McKay that she is pregnant, and McKay's like, are you okay? Like, this is the nicest McKay's ever been. He was like, are you okay? He's like, you're not thinking of keeping it, are you? And like, I understand that. Like, so like, it's like, this is not the optimal situation to be bringing a child in the world. Jules visits a friend from her old high school named TC. And when she meets TC, she also meets TC's roommate, Anna. And they go clubbing and take all these drugs. And Jules ends up having a sexual experience with Anna. And and then she hallucinates about Nate and Rue. The final episode of Euphoria begins with Rue and Jules getting back cool after Rue is hospitalized for that kidney infection and her bladder failure. Nate and Maddie get into it because Nate is unable to perform sexually, and Maddie's like, oh, talking smack. Nate puts his hands on her again, so she leaves, and Cal sees her leaving, and he's like, I don't know what y'all got going on. I don't know you. You seem like a very smart and beautiful girl. You need to leave him alone. Like, for your sake and his, please leave him alone. But before she leaves, Maddie stole the video of Cal and Jules. Nate wins his final football game, and Cal is still talking mess to him. He's like, oh, you could have done this better. You could have done this better. And then Nate tries to fight his dad, but his dad ends up like winning and subduing him. I don't know how he did it, because Nate could have definitely broke free. Like, then Nate starts tweaking out. He starts having like a full-blown tantrum and starts hitting his head against the wall. And Cal's like, what he got going on? Cassie goes to a clinic to terminate her pregnancy with the support of her mother and her sister. Just the juxtaposition between the harshness of the clinic in that room and the sound of the machine, and then hearing the ice skating and the music coming in. It was Fez breaks into Mouse's supplier's house in order to pay Mouse back. Ooh, you hitting a lick on the lick hitter. Ooh. I don't think this is gonna end up good, but you know, Mouse didn't clock the tea just yet. At the school's winter formal, Kat finally apologizes to Ethan.
I don't really know what else to say other than I'm so sorry. But that night at the carnival when you were flirting with that girl, I don't know, I just had like this reaction and I just like hated you.
And Rue is tired of looking at Nate Jacobs' face and that girl's butt that he is gripping. Bare butt, by the way. Ew!
Never done anything illegal, Nate.
Talking about your friend Jules?
No, actually, I'm talking about your dad. Because I personally have no problem walking into any police station and telling them that Nate Jacobs' daddy likes to f little kids.
Nate gets into her head.
It's probably why you're spending all your time with someone who's gonna leave you and won't even remember who the f you are in 10 years.
the entire night, Nate and Maddie are trying to make each other jealous. So they ultimately decide to end their relationship. Rue and Jules decide to run away together into the city. But Rue backs out last minute because she's thinking like, what will my mom do? What will Gia do? They would probably think I'm dead again. They would da, 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 da. She actually makes a responsible decision and decides to stay. And Jules ends up going on the train by herself. Rue is very heartbroken. So she ends up taking all these drugs and hallucinates. And she has a very vivid hallucination. It's like really crazy. That is all of season 1 of Euphoria. That's crazy. It is as good as I remembered it being. I'm gonna be honest. My heart wasn't fully in it as it was before, but like I still really loved it. I really had a fun time. You know, they still aggravated me just as much as before. You know, it still had the same effect on me. It was crazy. That is all for today, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd, but Blinded Sydney, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.